Baylor has a cheat code on offense. Are they using it enough?
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Game Time, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stuart of ESPN Central Texas and The Cam Show on YouTube. Appreciate you guys making it your first listen today and every day, because today we are talking about Baylor's cheat code. And it's not even the cheat code that it was a few weeks ago. Like, Baylor's got a new cheat code on offense, and we're wondering whether the Bears are using that enough. Plus, what were we wrong about on this team? Or specifically, what was I wrong about on this team? I'm going back to preseason when I did the top 5 biggest questions for Baylor football heading into this year. And now at the midway point, we will see how they have answered them. Plus, I guess we'll see you in Atlanta next year. But I don't really like that. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. We start where we start. Going into this year, we knew Baylor was going to have a cheat code on offense. Sawyer Robertson, for my money, second best quarterback in the Big 12 last year. And for my money, a top 5 returning quarterback in college football. And my money's making good right now, which is not often the case. But he has looked like a top 5 returning quarterback in all of college football this season. Leads the nation in passing yards, passing touchdowns, and yards per game. That's pretty good, man. I don't know about you. That's pretty good. What I'm here to tell you today is he's not the cheat code we're talking about. Baylor's unlocked another one. And it's at a somewhat unlikely offensive position. But I think you know where I'm going with this. You saw him at number 1 on the SportsCenter top 10 plays on Sunday morning before you headed off to church. Michael Trigg, number 1 on SportsCenter, number 1 in the program, number 1 target for Sawyer Robertson. Certainly the biggest mismatch. And he's showing it on the highlight tape and certainly in the numbers as well. Dave Aranda says it's unstoppable.
He's a mismatch. You have to put 2 people on him. If it's a linebacker, he ain't going to be able to run fast enough, and it's a safety, he's not going to be physical enough. And so a lot of people don't put 2 guys on him, and so this is what you get, you know. I think moving forward, it'll be interesting how people there's not a bunch of tight ends that are used that way. A couple times you face tight ends and they put them at the one receiver and they put them out. You can treat them like an X receiver and double them that way. But when he's in the middle or he's moving all around, it's hard to double when you got run responsibilities and all these other things. And so I think that's a loophole that we're exploiting. It's good that we are.
Now, look, I don't double as a football coach. I like to think I know this game fairly well, but certainly not on the level of like a everyday in and out college football coach. But that one thing Dave Aranda said in there, like, really kind of made me warm and fuzzy, because I always wondered this, or I wondered this about Michael Trigg towards the end of last season, is why don't they put him in the slot more? I always wonder that about these big athletic tight ends. Like, it just feels like they would be more effective in the slot than they would be on the boundary. But I think coaches get caught up in maybe coming up against a linebacker that is too physical and getting out there in coverage, physical enough to cover them, I should say. Too physical would be a good thing. Then you'd get a flag. But Dave Aranda says in there, he's like, you know, that's kind of the normal instinct, is to use a tight end either obviously at the tight end position or split out wide as an X receiver. And he's like, but using him in the middle of that field, even in a 4-wide formation, is super effective. And he talks about having to, you know, basically forcing the defensive coordinator on the other side into a really, really tough conundrum. And these are the things I only have heard about consistently about Rob Gronkowski and to a lesser extent Travis Kelce. And that is, they are too fast for a linebacker and they are too big for a defensive back, be it a corner or a safety. Like, there's just no way to cover him one-on-one, and there's very few ways to cover him, even 2-on-1. That has shown up on tape the last couple of weeks. I mean, he is the ultimate mismatch on this team. I don't know if he's the best player on this team. A, he's pretty damn close. But B, he is the biggest mismatch. And when you can make the catch, that one-handed grab that he made on Saturday, when you can make that play, he doesn't even need to be bigger than the defensive backs and faster than the linebackers. If you can make that play, that's uncoverable. It's absolutely uncoverable. And he has been uncoverable. We look at the stats he's had this year. He's already surpassed most of his output that he had last season. He's one catch away from equaling his total in last season in 11 games. He's only played 6. He already has over 45 more yards than he had last year, 2 yards more per reception last year. He's got more touchdowns than last year. The dude is a monster, an absolute monster. And it's only, I say only 73 yards a game for a tight end. That's a nice output, right? But he went for 8 and 155 on Saturday. Like, he on any given day can be your leading receiver. He can be your best red zone threat. He can be your best play action threat. He can be your best slot receiver threat. Like, he can be that any day of the week. And what you don't see on there is what they're able to do with him on the field when he's not getting the ball. Like, we talk all about the Kobe Prentice touchdown play. I love the Kobe Prentice touchdown play. What have they been every time? They've been deep posts every time. Part of that, not to take away from Kobe Prentice, because I think he is a terrific player, but part of that is when you've got 2 guys lined up in the slot and one of them's Michael Trigg, and we've established that you can't cover him with one person, all the attention is going that way. And then Kobe Prentice on the other side, running a 4-4, is wide open. The Kobe Prentice touchdown play has as much to do with Michael Trigg than it has to do with Sawyer Robertson. Like, that's how important he is on those kinds of plays. And the other thing you don't see on the tape or on SportsCenter Top 10 is the fact that he is not 100%. I don't know how public that is. He is not 100% at all, Michael Trigg. He is really battling through a bad shoulder. You saw that in the SMU game. He went out of that SMU game with that. That is not 100%. That is not healed. And I get it. There are bumps and bruises for just about everybody at this point in the season. But your most physically dominant offensive player is not at 100%, and he's still your most physically dominant offensive player. That's nuts. That is nuts. And this is going to sound disrespectful to Baylor. I really don't mean it to be. But Michael Trigg coming out of high school, like, that was the kind of recruit Baylor didn't get. And obviously they didn't. But, like, that's a kid who had his choice from pretty much anywhere in the SEC, decided to go to USC and be in California, ended up in the SEC at Ole Miss, and he could play with those guys. Sounds like there were some issues off the field, some miscommunications with these programs. And certainly we saw that at the beginning of his time at Baylor. But when he's got that straightened out and he's on the field every week, he's an NFL player. That dude is a Sunday player. And those of you who remember the end of last year, I was kind of worried about it towards the end of last season. You know, he had some big games going into the bowl game, and I was like, you might need to worry about a kid who's on his 3rd different school and has the athleticism and the size to be an NFL prospect. Like, sometimes those guys just leave school. Sometimes those guys just go and they're like, I don't care if I get drafted in the 6th round. I'll prove everybody wrong. But he might have turned himself into a day 2 pick by staying here at Baylor. And the athletes are certainly better at the next level, but you still can't teach the stuff that Michael Trigg can do. Like, he's still going to be a matchup nightmare at the next level. I'm telling you, I really only heard that about Rob Gronkowski, but a little bit of Travis Kelce, because he's in all of our lives now. Of the linebacker can't cover him because he's not fast enough, and the defensive back can't cover him because he's not physical enough. That's what Michael Trigg brings to the table. So I opened with the question of, are they using him enough? The answer is a resounding yes. Yes. He's a top 10 receiving tight end in college football, according to PFF. But of that top 10, he has 70 more snaps than the next most used tight end, the second most used tight end of that top 10. Michael Trigg has played 70 more snaps. And his run blocking has gotten a little better. It's improved, and that's going to help him at the next level, obviously. But that's also what's kept him on the field. Michael Trigg, 1 of 1. Anyway, let me know what you think about Michael Trigg in the comment section below. Is he the biggest cheat code this team has? Let me know in the comment section below. When we come back, we will talk about the 5 most burning questions I had about this Baylor football team going into the season and what those answers have been midway through. Let's do it next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode of Locked On Baylor is brought to you by Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports game. It's coming to you from Prize Picks. Okay. I've got it here. Don't worry. Yes, there we go. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections, like Josh Allen's passing yards, less, or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, also less, and you're in the game. I love how quick it is. You can make your lineup in under a minute. It's just more or less. It's so easy for you. It's also fun to follow the other players. You can add and copy their lineups with just one click. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDON, COLLEGE, Locked On College, one word, for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Back here on Locked On Baylor, a little top 5 time, because you'll remember before the season, I did top 5 biggest questions about this Baylor football team. And now we're at the midway point. We're at the bye week. It's time we take a little temperature check and see where I was at with that. Thank God I started doing timestamps in these episodes because I didn't have it written down. I had to go back and find them, but timestamps saved me. #1 question: what does this offense look like without Ashton Hawkins? Thankfully, the answer to that is N/A. Don't need to know. Ashton Hawkins has been on this team. He probably doesn't have the quite as big a role as he had last year, but I don't think that's a bad thing for Baylor. I don't think it's that bad a thing for Ashton Hawkins, but he has certainly still been a part of what is a top 20 offense here. 304 yards on the season. So he is actually on pace to have more catches and yards than last year. It just hasn't felt like it. Average is about the same. And the big thing, I think, is he hasn't gotten in the end zone yet. And he had 5 touchdowns last year as the second leading touchdown receiver, if that makes sense, for the Baylor Bears last year. Still been super dependable. But thankfully, we don't need to know the answer to that one. That's a big ol' NA. And we move on to question number 2. I should link to the episode just so you guys don't think I'm making this up to troll. But the number 2 question I had was, will they have a home field advantage? The answer is no. I wish I could say anything different, but the answer is no. And the reason why I made that a big question in the preseason was because in your first 4 weeks, you had 2 massive matchups at home. He had 3 massive matchups overall, but 2 of them were at home. And I thought that was going to really set the tone for what we were going to see from this team this season, because then Kansas State's a huge game 2 weeks later, and that's at home. You've got a Utah game that's a big game at home. You've got Cincinnati, is that right, at home? Like that was going to really pave the way for what we're going to see from the rest of the home schedule. And right away, the atmosphere was good for Auburn. Auburn certainly had a lot of their fans in there. But so far, not so good. No home field advantage. And the 2 games I was looking at were 2 games that, of course, they lost. They lost to Auburn. They lost to Arizona State. And boy, golly, they nearly lost to Kansas State at home, which was a much different expectation about that Kansas State game from when we were looking at it in August. So big, fat, resounding No. 5-12 in their last 17 games against Power 4 opponents at home. That is, I want to say unacceptable, but clearly it is acceptable because it's happening quite a bit. And now, of course, the talks are about the crowds and who's going there and who's not and why they're not going. And it's just a mess I was really hoping to avoid this year. I was really hopeful that we were going to have better crowds and more so than that, because we have had some good crowds over the last couple of years, but they don't win at home. It's still a weird thing with Dave Aranda. They don't win at home. We've heard it over the last couple of seasons where he would say, yeah, we're so ready because it was a road game and it was us against the world. And I'm like, do we need to like put them in the white uniforms at home? Do we need them to use the other sideline? Like, is there something we can do to have them think a home game is a road game? Playing in front of a half-empty stadium, maybe that's what fans are going for. But yeah, that would be a big resounding no. Third question, I should say, was who's going to be the game wrecker? And obviously, I was more looking at that from the defensive side of the ball. I guess you could have a game wrecker on offense, but typically that comes on the defensive side. And the answer to this one is I don't know. Like, this is supposed to have an answer, right? It's not supposed to say like, will they have one at all? Like, it's supposed to say, who is it? And I don't know who it is, man. Typically those come from the defensive line and your pass rushers. And clearly that has not been a thing. Jackie Marshall's not at 100%. That's the guy who I said in the preseason would be the closest thing they have to a game wrecker. But obviously he's not 100%. He's out there gutting it out, but it's still, the production's not there. Another guy gutting it out is Cooper Lands. He's been okay when he's been out there. But none of those guys in the middle of the defense have been run stuffers at all or made enough plays. Matthew Fobbs-White is the only guy in the defensive line with a pass rush grade over 70. None of the other linemen have even an overall grade above 70. So it still has not been there. If you really want to stretch to what a game wrecker could be, you could say, well, Keaton Thomas at the linebacker position could wreck some things. He could, and he's actually still having a solid season, playing every single down. He has a run stuff average of over 70%, but no other starting linebacker is even over 65%. So I would say they don't have a game wrecker right now, and you're certainly seeing it through the way they have been playing defense this year. There's no closer for the Baylor Bears, and there's not much of a starter either. It's just not been enough. It's not been consistent enough across the board at all three levels for this Baylor defense. We've got two more questions to go, including a big one about the Baylor head coach, and maybe the one I got the most wrong about a Baylor player this year. We'll talk about that coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time, which came in handy for me big time this morning. One of my favorite players from one of my favorite teams. They announced he was getting his number retired this morning, saw the notification, went right to Game Time, and got my tickets right away at the best price possible. Okay. And you want to be there, whether it's hockey for me or baseball, and of course, college football. Tailgates, rivalries, the energy in the stands. There's nothing like being there. And let's be real. Getting tickets can feel like more of a hassle, a stressor than the game itself. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. They make it super simple on the app. I could see the exact view from my seats before buying, and it doesn't double the price at the end of it. Like, that price you see is the price you're going to pay. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, all one word, for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. Today's episode is also brought to you by Square, just like your favorite neighborhood spot. is brought to you by Square. No joke. I was watching my NFL team Sunday night, and I'm at my favorite watering hole up the street, PJ Ryan's. How did I pay? I did it through Square. I'm not even making this up. Like, that's for real. And that PJ Ryan's, man, there's one of those businesses that just makes the neighborhood the neighborhood. Okay. Those places that become an extension of home. These are the places that bring people together. And when those businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. Okay. I love that place and I love using Square. It is absolutely so easy for me, for my bartender, for the people, the great people working in my own neighborhood. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. Back to it on Locked On Baylor. The final two of my top 5 questions for Baylor football heading into the 2025 football season and where they're at the midpoint. Number 4, what do you get from Caden Jenkins this year? I thought that was a massive question going into this season, and I looked at it very much on the bright side of Caden Jenkins bounce back year, too good not to bounce back, right? I saw all the promise in his freshman season. No way he can't tap back into that. And he still can. There's 6 games left. And when he's been on the field, like when balls have come in his direction, he's made some plays to the point this year where I thought a week or two ago, I'm like, you know what? We don't hear his name a lot, but Caden Jenkins has been playing well. And so go to PFF, and that's where I really take a lot in terms of defensive backs because – the guys who are having the ball thrown at them all the time and making plays, those aren't necessarily the best backs. The guys who don't get the ball thrown at them at all tend to be the best defensive backs. So Caden Jenkins is 3rd for Baylor's coverage grade, even amongst corners. Okay. He's behind Caldra Williford and Tevin Williams when it comes to that. Caldra Williford, how many times have we said his name this season? Caden Jenkins is below him in terms of his coverage grade. And he's also played 117 less snaps than Tevin Williams, who's had a good year, by the way, Tevin Williams. Caden only has 125 snaps on the year. That stunned me. Like that, that might have been the most stunning stat about this Baylor football team if you had told me at the beginning of August. Like it would have been that and Dawson Pendergrass 0 yards. Like to me, that would have been equally as shocking. Like seriously. By the way, Jacob Redding, by far the best coverage grade on this team. 20 points higher than Caden Jenkins, actually. Jacob Redding, man, that the legend continues. But the other thing that really surprised me, to not just be on Caden's back here, is Calvin Simpson Hunt. 32 defensive snaps this year. 32. It's about as many as he played at Ohio State. And I get it. It's halfway through one season, but I haven't heard his name called one time this season. Not one time. So that's a big surprise. So what do you get from Caden Jenkins this year? There's a lot of season left, but you haven't gotten a lot. You just haven't gotten a lot. And the 5th and final question, which again, early August, this was not written this week, but the biggest question arguably that I had going into this season was this. Is Dave Aranda actually the defensive genius we were promised? Now, notice I use genius, not defensive guru. It means the same thing, and the answer is the same. We have not seen it this season. We have not. This defense is as bad as it was 2 years ago when it was Baylor's worst team in a while at 3-9. And most of you don't need the numbers because we've watched it every week. We've seen what it's like, and I've talked about it a lot. But I think it's important to kind of dive through the numbers here. 107th in points per game allowed. I was surprised to see that there are 7 Power 4 teams ranked below them. I didn't think there would be that many. Only one in the Big 12. That's Oklahoma State. 29 points a game allowed. Like, I get it. You've got a heck of an offense, but that, 113th in rush yards allowed per game. 177 rushing yards allowed per game. Like that, that is something that just drives coaches crazy because it's like, man, we can't even compete. Like, we can't even start the series right. So just to put that into perspective, Baylor's 113th in that category. Texas Tech leads the Big 12, and they are third nationally. Texas Tech, they've been able to build a defense. Texas Tech's never had a defense, man, ever. This might be the best defense they've ever had through 6 games. And so-called defensive genius still has not put one together with his own guys that can rival what Tech is doing this year. He's had one defense that could do that, arguably 1.5. The 2021 was pretty good too, even though the team stunk. But again, not his guys. 128th in rushing first downs allowed per game. 128th out of 136 teams in FBS. They give up over 11 rushing first downs per game. 11. That'll make your nose bleed, and no one will be able to stop it. So big no. I thought this was going to be a bounce back season for Dave Aranda, the defensive coordinator. I really did. But it has not been. It has not been. And despite some of the vocal minority, I'm just reading the stats here, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. The answer is no. He has not been the defensive genius that we thought he was, and that some of us were still holding out hope that he would be this season. That answer is no. So of those 5 questions, there hasn't been a ton of positive answers other than the fact that you didn't need to see what the offense was like with Ashton Hawkins. But other than that, home field advantage, no. Who's going to be the game wrecker? No idea still through 6 weeks. What do you get from Caden Jenkins? Unfortunately, not that much. And is Dave Aranda the defensive genius we were promised? No. And still this team's 4-2. So yeah, I mean, in my darker hours, I think of what this team could be if there was better structure around it. But they are still 4-2, even with so much going against them. Most of it, man-made, but there's still a lot going against them, and they're still 4-2. And they were 2-4 at this point last year, and they ripped off a heck of a second half. Let's hope Baylor can do it again, huh? Because next year is going to be awfully tough. And why am I talking about next year? And that's because the opener of next season has been announced. Baylor, Auburn in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, this is supposed to be a home and home. It's supposed to be on the plains at Auburn, and instead it's in Atlanta. And my opinion might change on this, but I hate it. So the reason why they're doing this, which I totally understand, and I actually don't blame the schools necessarily for doing this, but it's going to set a bad precedent. So there's going to be promise of over $5 million in NIL for Auburn to have this game at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. And we haven't heard it yet from the Baylor side, but certainly Baylor would have to get a couple of million out of this, or else why would they agree to it? So certainly they'll be getting some NIL money as well. And that's great for these programs. But I just don't think it's going to be great for college football. I don't know about you guys. I'm not a huge neutral site guy. I'm really not. Like, I don't like it in basketball either. Like, I like playing these games on campus for your home stadium, your home crowd. The prices go up when it comes to neutral site games. It doesn't have the same feel, the things that make college football games unique. I hate it. I hate going to neutral site games. And this is a real bummer of an opportunity because, like, we saw it on Baylor's campus this year. Like, that was an awesome opportunity to have a team like Auburn in town. Oklahoma State comes here every other year. TCU comes here every other year. But Auburn does not, and that's a cool thing. And I just think we're going to go down this road. Now there's more games internationally. Like, college football is the ultimate American game for the red-blooded, hardworking American, and we're taking it to Dublin, and we're taking it to London, and we're taking it to Germany, and it stinks. I don't like that. Nothing against the people of those countries. It's just that, like, let the NFL do that, but keep college football in America and keep college football on campus. I'm going to talk more about this tomorrow, so I don't want to get too much into it. But certainly with the SEC playing more Power 4 opponents, this is going to become more and more and more prevalent. And I just don't like that, guys. I'm sorry. Maybe that makes me lame. I just don't like that. And I'm thankful that Baylor got to keep their home game, but I feel for the Auburn people. Like, that stinks. They wanted this game, and I know so many. Obviously, you guys saw it too. So many of their fans were following along with this show. Most of them pretty dang positive, and a lot of them in the comment section were saying, we went to Waco this year. You got to come out to Auburn next year, or wasn't able to make it, but you'd love Auburn. I even saw some this week that were like, come down to Auburn next year. Now they've taken that away from me. Hugh Freeze and Dave Aranda, they've taken it away from me, which stinks. I guess it'll be easier to fly into Atlanta, but that's it. To a state I've never been to, so I guess I could check that box. I have been to Alabama. Anyway, we got to get to trivia because I've been lacking on this. We had from Friday's trivia question, who is the guy to be an assistant for both Bill Snyder and Phil Bennett? Daniel Benavides got that right in the YouTube comment section. I believe I said the answer when I read the question there, but it was who coached alongside Bill Snyder and Art Briles, and that was Phil Bennett, a guy whom I think a lot of Baylor fans are writing apologies to after what we watched in the Art Briles era from Phil Bennett's defense. It was frustrating at times, but certainly a different kind of frustrating than it is right now. Now we transition this question to a guy. I can't believe we've gotten through a whole episode I've gotten through a whole episode and I've only talked about him for like 30 seconds. That's because this question today is about Sawyer Robertson. I got to get this out before I forget how to speak English. Jesus, it's happening again. Anyway, Saturday, Sawyer Robertson passed Sean Bell for 6th in the program's all-time passing yard list. He is now 3 yards away from getting into 5th place all by himself. What Grant Taft quarterback would he be surpassing in the number 5 spot? Hopefully against TCU. I hope he'll get 3 yards. Let me know in the comment section below. One last time, quickly, Sawyer Robertson is about to become 5th in Baylor's all-time passing list. What Grant Taft era quarterback will he surpass to get to 5th on that list? As you know, first one to get it in the comment section below on YouTube or tweeting at us at Locked On Baylor gets the shout out in the next episode. Clearly, I have to stop talking or else I might just start speaking a completely different language. Y'all, thank you so much for making it your first listen today and every day. And thank you so much for making this the #1 Baylor football show on YouTube. Yesterday's episode really got the crowd going, ironically enough, because it was about the crowd. I just want you to know, I don't get to all the comments, but I appreciate every single one of those. Like, that's why I do this so open-ended a lot of the time. I want to hear from you guys. I want to be a show for you guys. And you guys have been fantastic in the comment section. So truly, bring me all your thoughts. And I don't know, YouTube might have to strike some down, but I won't. So thank you so much for making it your first listen today and every day. And we will see you on the next edition of your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.